which one's on mics? Ah, now we could say
Good evening.
and welcome to radio.com. You
Dear
are
Dad
watching
Show.
the Dear Dad Show.
And if you notice, we have a new studio.
And what is the
No, we
studio
didn't
look
have this
like
last
today?
time.
Oh, it's like a building.
Okay, we're in a glass enclosed building.
Oh,
Awesome.
I kind of got used to being in the living room. This is like
You
being
know
in
what?
an office
We
now.
have to move up. We have to go forward.
Change. The only thing constant in life is change.
That's profound.
Oh wow.
You're like a philosopher.
I think I found it all right in like a bathroom reader.
Could have been.
I think so.
Everything
Anyway.
you ever needed to learn, you learned in kindergarten, apparently.
So we are here. It is the middle of June. Summer is coming up quick. And
Quick?
there's
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow is the first day of summer. Is that right?
Officially, yes.
Okay.
For
All
some
right.
people, summer started already. I know
June 20th today. By the way, Phil, I hope you're watching.
he might be. You know, a shout out to Phil, because our friend Phil, he really tries to watch our show live, but work gets in the way. So he ends up watching the show when it's replayed. He looks at the replay.
Right.
So
When it's convenient
Last
for him,
week-
because you can watch it anytime you want. That is the wonder and the nicety
I've been
of
right.
the internet.
But
And
last week, he was in Washington on a business trip, and he made sure he got his dinner, he was back in his hotel room, ready to watch the show. He turns it on and goes, "This isn't a new show." So we let him down last week. We're sorry, Phil. We had things going on, and the past 2 weeks,
Sometimes you have family commitments.
you know, we had college graduation, you have another graduation tomorrow, and it's been busy. We had some things going on, but now we're back this week,
Back live.
summer.
And we're going to talk about summer.
Yes.
That's what we're going to talk about today. But first of all, how was your week?
I had a really good week,
Good.
really good week. We had a graduation party for my son's college graduation on Saturday. Good friends came over, family.
Congratulations to you.
It was a nice day. Weather was perfect, worked out good. Working with my son to get him his first car, so that'll be
good.
fun. That's always a big thing for a guy. Do you remember your first car?
I do.
Was it? Now, usually it's either a clunker or it's a nice car. What'd you get your first car?
It was an older car. It was my parents' car.
Mm-hmm.
They had gotten another car, and so it was free, which was perfect.
I got my car free also.
Yeah. It was a
It was my brother's
1964
handbag.
Buick Skylark.
Mine was a 1968 Buick Skylark.
There you go. I didn't know that. It was a beautiful car. It was, I mean, it wasn't a beautiful car, but for me it was great. And
Now, the difference is-
washed it and cleaned it, and it was
Absolutely.
banged up a little bit, and it was kind of missing paint, but I touched it up, and I
It
mean,
was yours.
for me it was
It was
great.
your first set of wheels.
It was great.
Now, mine was a different body style than yours. In 68, the Skylark changed. to
Yours
the-
looked like the Le Mans. It had the,
Yep.
the
And in
slant back.
69, they all went there. The Pontiac Grand Prix, and they all
Right.
went to that shape.
Right.
You had the older body style,
Your
which was a
car
little
looked
bit
like the
bigger.
one. Yours looked like the Pontiac Tempest.
No, like the Pontiac Grand Am.
The Grand Am.
was like the Grand
Like the
Am.
one from my cousin Vinny. It looked like that one.
Yes.
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 Yeah, that was kind of like a fastback.
And I,
Yeah, mine was an older
I had that for
version.
a long time.
Yeah, I didn't keep mine as long.
No,
Yeah.
I ended
But
up.
I was one of the first
Garage
one of my friends to drive.
Oh, see, I was near the end.
So I drove everywhere. And at that point, gas was only 60 cents a gallon. So, it
So you
wasn't
were the
so
guy
bad.
that had the only car in town? See, when I was growing up, his name was Mike. He had this big blue Galaxy that we would just stuff as many people as we could, because he
We-
was the only guy driving.
Yeah, we stuffed as many people as we could in the cars as well. I know my mom's watching tonight. Hi, Mom. I always drove safely, and everyone put their seatbelts on.
All 60 of them.
All 60 of us at one time, exactly right. But that was a great car, and I thank you guys for it.
I know you're lying, because those cars didn't have seatbelts.
No, it had seatbelts. I don't think they were
Your
worn all that
64
often.
had a
Yeah, it
seatbelt
had
in it?
seatbelt, sure. It was just a lap belt.
Well,
No-
mine was just
no
lap
pro-
belt, but only the driver. There was no passenger or rear seat belts.
I don't know, maybe the other ones didn't have it.
Maybe.
Yeah, this had like bucket seats and all that, and it was a nice car. It really was. Again, it was a little banged up, whatever, but you know what? I
It got
kept
you
it
where you're
clean,
going.
and it got us where we wanted to go. We hung out with all my friends, and it was just a wonderful thing. And and it was this time of year, the summertime, when we went everywhere because school was out, or
Right.
you were just finishing out your test and all that. And, you know, when we were fortunate because we did a lot of things. We drove around at night and you know, I can't say we were super rowdy, but we probably had our moments. And we did okay. But I also know, you know, where at that time, and of course now I have my own children, how dangerous it could be driving, you know, with a bunch of people in the car and the distractions and all those things.
Sure.
So I know we have a lot of young listeners, a lot of young viewers, and they just need to take that into account, and they need to be careful. That's part of summer safety, right? Which is kind of where we're going today.
Yeah, that leads us into tonight's
Is summer
topic.
safety.
Summer can be the most incredible time of your life. Everyone remembers
It
the
can
summer.
be.
Everyone remembers the summer. The problem with summer can be, though, is there's so many dangers out there, and most of them can be avoided.
Right.
The vast majority, it's because we do things without thinking, or we don't do things the right way because we don't know. So tonight we're going to go over some simple, easy to follow tips to make your summer safer.
Well, there's things that change when you get into summer, right?
Absolutely.
There's the longer hours, right? So there's more daylight, so you're more likely to do outside activities. And outside activities introduce a whole different array of things that you could be involved with.
That's right.
Clothing, right? Or the lack of clothing in summer. When you're out there in the sun, and then we'll talk about a little bit about sunburn, and we'll talk about, you know, things that, you know, you need to be careful of. Wearing shoes. You know, how many kids, you're in the
Right.
medical industry, you've worked in the ER, you know, both as
Puncture wounds like crazy.
nurse practitioner and a nurse and things like that, and you've seen people come in with glass in their feet and all those
burns and
things.
sunburns and heat stroke and heat poisoning.
Right.
But in addition, also when the weather's hot, what do people seek? Water.
Water.
And the water can be, I remember as a kid,
Dangers.
my favorite time in the summer was in the pool. I spent from morning to night in my pool.
Yeah. We had a pool
But
too.
you have to be careful because it can also be very dangerous. So there's
Right.
some safety rules, and I think that's where we plan to go tonight. So everyone can have an incredible summer. Just have a safe summer so that you're here to watch Dear Dad and the rest of the shows on radio in September.
All right, so where do you want to start? You want to start with, you pick. We had a whole bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of topics that we looked at, so.
Okay, so first I think one of the things we should talk about is the one of the main issues, the sun. The sun is hot. The sun can burn you. The sun can make your day an incredible day, as long as you really pay attention to it. Now, one of the things you really want to avoid is sunburn. If you have very small children, children under 6 months of age, don't even put sun lotion on them. You want to cover them up. Hats. Hats, covered, long sleeve, light color, very loose clothing.
Right.
You don't want to really put sunscreen on a child. Now, if they're under 6 months and they're have to be exposed, like their face is going to be exposed, you can put like an SPF 15 a little bit and then try and wipe it off when they get out of the
Right.
sun. But other than that, you know, a lot of people try and take the easy way, and with sunscreen, there is no real easy way. You don't want to get the combination products like bug spray and combination with the
They
these.
They
no.
each have to give a little bit, so it doesn't give you as good
Well,
protection.
no, what happens is you're supposed to reapply sunscreen every 2 hours. Bug spray you only need to do once or twice maybe during the day.
Oh, okay.
So you want to have something that you can keep reapplying. After you go in the water, after you are sweating a lot, you want to reapply sunscreen. And make sure you get it evenly. SPF 15
I
or
mean, it's
higher.
not good. I remember as kids, you know, like your friends like writing
With
your
coconut
initials.
oil, right.
You're writing initials on their back while they're laying on the beach, and then they wake up and it's, you know, it says like I'm a jerk or something on it. Not that I want you to do that, but
No, we
I've
don't.
seen it done.
The thing is, the damage to skin is cumulative. So if you get one really bad burn and then you do good, then you get another really bad burn, it is eventually doing damage. And you know, what happens is when you damage your skin, you change the makeup of the cells. And if cells change their makeup, eventually they can become cancerous. They can
Right.
start to grow erroneously and they turn into cancer. So
So-
that's what you want to try to avoid.
Talk to me a little bit
Sunscreen.
about sunscreen.
Okay.
I have been, I just recently bought some sunscreen, and it was for the bike hike that we were doing.
Okay.
And I said, oh, let me get this. We were going to be out at Montauk Point, and there was so many choices, so many brands. We saw sunscreen up to 75, and something in the back of my, or even up to 100 actually, something in the back of my mind had told me SPF effectivity only goes up to a number, and I didn't think it was 100.
Well, you know, some
you know
protection
enough
factor,
about
that's, the 15 is the lowest you want to go, and the higher you go, the more it blocks.
But is there really such thing as 100?
There is.
It's like liquid closet, you know, it's like...
That's kind of like the white stuff they used to put on their nose. It's just total blocking, but in most cases, that's overkill. Anything...
So does
SPF
100
30,
block out
SPF
100%
50,
of the UV rays? Is that what it's supposed to mean?
Technically, it's supposed to.
Okay.
It's supposed to.
Okay.
But you want to make sure that you get something that blocks out both the UV and A and UVB rays. So you want to look to make sure it's
So you
blocking
look at the label.
both.
It's all about reading labels, and
Right.
in most of the products that you buy, doesn't matter whether it's food or a product like this, you gotta just figure out how to read the labels.
Exactly. And you know, brand-wise, they're basically all the same. I prefer to stay away from the ones that have scent and odor in them,
Right.
mainly because they attract bugs.
Right.
The more that they smell, the more you're going to have a problem with mosquitoes and ticks and things that are attracted to the scent of your sunscreen. So if you can find one that's without added dyes, without added fragrances, that's probably your best bet.
Now, you know, if you're going to the beach, you want the one that smells like coconuts.
Well, yeah,
Because
that's the one
that
everyone
just
likes because it makes you
reminds
think you're in
of
Hawaii.
being at the beach.
Even
But
if
that may
you've
not
never
be the
been
best
in Hawaii.
one. So maybe you could buy that, but also buy the real good one. You know, I remember when my children were small, you know, you're always trying to look for a bargain. You don't have a lot of money. You're just growing your family. There was a company, and they still exist, called No Ad. Do you recognize that
I don't.
company? There's a company called No Ad, and you read the back of the bottle, and the story goes where, you know, the guy couldn't find a good sunscreen product. He was a chemist for his kids, and he developed his own, and then he decided that he would charge very little for it. So it was a large container like this, and it had all the right SPF, and it had all the right ingredients, but it had no coloring to the bottle. It was just a very plain looking bottle with, you know, the story on the back or whatever, and it was only about like $3.50 or something.
Right.
And the cheapest, closest to that, in half the size was probably like $9 or $8.
Right.
And you know what? It's still out there today. It still exists.
Okay.
They've got some other versions of it because the color bottles are different now. But it's one color. It's very inexpensive, and I was told it's very effective. I know we've used it for the kids. Now they're big and they want the fancy ones and whatnot.
But, and the cost can be very prohibitive.
Oh, it can be.
You know, so you don't need the most expensive one. Look for the SPF, the A and B. You want it to block both A and B. Fairer skinned people probably can use a higher SPF because they do tend to burn more. And the other thing is, one of the best ways, if you cover up, one of the best ways to prevent it is wear a long, loose-fitting, light-colored shirt, long sleeve if possible, a hat, wide brim.
Yeah.
Avoiding the sun is the best protection.
If you're working in the garden, you know, you don't necessarily have to be at the beach. You could just be outside, and it doesn't have to be sunny.
Well, that's the other thing. Just because the sun is not out, if it's a hazy, cloudy day, you're still going to get burned. And that's actually more dangerous, because if you're laying on the beach in the sun, you feel it a little more. If you're gardening and it's overcast and cloudy, you'll be out there 6-7 hours and thinking
So
nothing's
a big
happening.
floppy hat for a woman if she's working in a garden.
Get
It
a
covers
wide
you,
brim
covers your
garden hat or
shoulders, it
cowboy hat
covers
for
your
a guy.
neck, right? And I know that they have, like I do a lot, I used to do a lot of fishing, but they have the fishing hats which have a very long brim, and they also have a little thing that folds up in the back and lays down on the back, which will cover your neck. And there's always, if you do outside sports, fishing or something, or clamming or beach going, there's always the hot spots, which are your nose. You mentioned your nose, the tips of your ears. Okay. All right. Forehead for me. You got it on your chin, Christine. Your lips.
You have to protect your lips.
I find that I get it right here too, right on my.
Because there's parts that are prominent to the sun.
Right. I guess the parts that are looking up or
And
whatever.
the other thing is, I understand, you know, a lot of the young people want to get that bronzed look. They want to get that colored look. And I understand, because
Well,
they
our
think it makes
society
them feel more attractive.
makes them, and they also
Now, on
think
the
they
flip
look
side,
healthy.
though, on the flip side, when you get into your 40s and 50s, all the damage that the sun causes to the skin, those are the people that tend to have the very wrinkled skin, the leathered, wrinkled skin in their older age. So what you're getting on the front end,
Because they
you're
tanned when they
giving
were
up on
younger?
the back end.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely. It loses the elasticity in the skin because of the change from the sun. So it's a lot
So
of
if you're
people
gonna do that,
wrinkly-
find your life partner early on, because you may not be too attractive.
that's the message.
If you wait until you're like 50. Okay, I'm not sure if that's
That's
really,
a typical
Christine, I don't know if that's
spin we gotta
really the
do on
message.
things.
But that might be the message. You know, how about that tan mom thing? That was weird, right?
Well,
You're
that's
just
it.
over-
And you just brought up a good
not her
point.
issue, but the point is that, you know,
This
she
doesn't
she
just pertain to the sun. Tanning booths
overdid
are
it.
worse.
Tanning booth.
Tanning
And you know what? I find, like even my own kids, and I know they watch, that, you know, if they're going to the Bahamas in the winter, the first thing they do is they book a couple of sessions at a tanning salon, so they
To
can
get a
tan up a little
base.
bit. Yeah, before they go. You know, if they listen to me, I would tell them I don't think it's a good idea, but I know that, you know,
You put that big word "if."
yeah, you know, they're old enough to make their own decisions, but I don't think it's a good idea. But
So that's number one, sun safety. Now the other thing, what about, and I know this is something, I was going to say it's a bugaboo of yours, but that would be a wrong way to put it. Insects, bugs in the summer. What do we do about that? Because that becomes a problem.
well, I don't think you have to worry about putting sunscreen on them, because I think they just naturally. Are
They
we off
can,
the
like, yeah.
sunscreen?
We're
off the
moving on.
sunscreen.
We segued
Okay.
into bug
Bugs.
safety.
Well, I don't
Bug and
think
insect
I don't think pulling the wings off flies is good either.
Or putting ants under the magnifying glass.
That's
No.
right. That's fun,
No,
but that's
it's not
bad.
fun.
That's
It is
bad.
not fun
You
for
know,
the
I was
ant.
probably in my 30s and I was still doing that. And got a big ant right by my the end of my driveway. But anyway, I had to show the kids how to do that. Anyway, so bugs. First of all, I do a family picnic every year, right? And there's a lot of
Yes.
yellow jackets, and I know that they are attracted to yellow or the bright colors.
Okay.
And that's number one on the list here is, you know, don't dress your child in bright colors or things that have flowers on it. But how do you get something that's a summer outfit that's not a bright color, unless it's white?
White.
That's not a bright color and doesn't have flowers on it. So
Right,
that's
especially
a
for
hard
girls.
one.
Especially for little girls.
That's a hard
Yep.
one. That's a hard one. Hairsprays, flowery shampoos, flowery perfumes, all those things, I think they're attractants. Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Anything that has an odor.
Deodorant too, okay.
Right. There are odor-free deodorants, but the more they smell, the more they're attracting.
Some bugs don't hurt you, they're just annoying.
Annoying. Like gnats.
Gnats.
They're very annoying, but they don't bite. Then you have the...
Daddy long legs.
They don't bite.
And there's plenty of them at camp,
There are.
but thank
other
God they
bugs
don't
like
bite.
ticks
Yeah.
and mosquitoes, they carry disease. Especially in the Northeast where we are, you have to worry about Lyme disease. Now we're seeing other diseases, tick-borne illnesses, West Nile virus. So you really want to be careful of any of those insects. And
So
also
you're better off risking the poisonous DEET.
Well, that's a misnomer. DEET is not
right.
poisonous. Okay? As long as the child is 6
You know, you
months
talk to
or
people
older.
that say, oh, well, they used to call it Agent Orange, but now they call it
No,
DEET.
DEET you can use. The CDC actually has recommendations for using DEET. And when it says 10% DEET or 30% DEET, you know what's the difference? And no one really knows
20%?
this. Yeah, 20% difference.
It
But
was
when
just a
would
math,
you
I thought it was
use
a math question.
When would you use a 10% DEET versus a 30% DEET? When you're going for bigger bugs? No.
I don't know. What?
The difference is 10% DEET lasts about an hour, where 30 will last about 3 to 4 hours. So if you're going to be going out on a short trip when you're going to be around the
just put
woods,
10%.
just put 10%. But if you're going out for the day, you want to put on the 40%.
All right, so
that's what the
so
difference
if you're, you know, when you get a lot of in our area anyway,
Right.
you get that just at dusk, get a lot of mosquitoes.
You do.
Okay, and you know, if it's windy out, you're okay.
Mm-hmm.
But so if you're only worried about covering that 1 hour of dusk, then you know, go for the family bottle that it says 10% on it.
Correct.
Okay, and if you need more, you can always apply more. Better than covering yourself in the heavier DEET. Not
Correct.
that DEET is a dangerous chemical. We don't
Yeah.
know, I don't know that.
No,
I'm not about to say that.
10% lasts about 2 hours, and 30% will last longer.
I'll tell you
about
something
5
that's
hours.
natural that helps,
What's that?
okay? And I don't know if it's listed here, but one of the things that I found worked, and we found it at somebody's home, they had a fan, a box fan, and they just put that fan on while we were out having dinner, and there was no breeze, but
Right.
the breeze from the fan kept the mosquitoes away. I was shocked.
That
And
will
I
help to
usually
a
get
certain degree,
mosquito-
but that's not a
mosquito
foolproof
bites.
method. If
Yeah.
it's windier, there do tend to be less bugs because they have to fight
They have to
the
fly,
current.
right,
So,
right.
but I
that
would
was-
use that as a
That was a big help. That was really a big help. You want that? And then Listerine, a diluted Listerine in a spray bottle was also good. We sprayed that on our deck and on the grass,
that helps.
and that seemed to really work. So someone also talked about dishwashing liquid, spraying some dishwashing liquid
That
on
can
your
help
lawn.
sometimes too. Unfortunately, a lot of times people use the scented dishwashing liquid, and then you've defeated
That would
the
be
purpose.
bad. Yeah, okay.
Now, in addition to DEET, there's something called picaridin. It's an alternative. It's out there. You'll start to see it in sprays. It's a little bit of a more bio-friendly form. You're starting to see it in something. So if you see that you can use instead of the DEET, that comes in 5 and 10% concentrations also. So, but you really do want to protect yourself from the insects, not just because they're annoying, but they can make you sick.
Right.
They really can. If you see ticks on yourself or your children, then you should look them over pretty good after they've been in the woods, because it's not the large dog tick that we're really worried about. It's the very tiny deer tick. And when I say very tiny, small nymph ticks, they can be the size of the head of a pin.
Yeah.
It almost will look like a freckle.
Yeah. If you wear reading glasses, put them on if you're doing a tick check, because they're really hard to see.
And in general, it's not a blanket statement. In general, if the tick is in the skin less than 24 hours, the chance of you contracting
Lyme's disease.
Lyme's disease is very remote. So if you do a check after every day, you pretty much ensure that you're able to remove the tick before it has a chance to spread the disease.
Right.
It's a spirochete disease, so it's you want to get them out. And you just gently try and pull them out without ripping the head off. And you just gently pull them out.
Tweezer or?
You can use tweezers as long as you don't squeeze too hard. And just slowly give it a gentle, steady pressure, and they'll come out. The large dog ticks that can be the size of a penny when they're engorged,
Right.
they look nasty, but they're not really as dangerous. They're not known to carry disease in this part of the
Any
country.
truth that they back out because of heat?
You know what happens? There
You end
is
up with a burn instead of a
There
tick?
is a bit of truth where if you take a match, you blow it off, and then you put it to the tail of the tick, it'll back itself out. But what happens more often than not is people end up burning themselves with the match.
Okay.
So
Right.
the other thing you can do is when they're embedded in the skin, they are breathing through their back. So you could take a little bit of Vaseline or some type of petroleum jelly and coat the bug in that, and that'll sort of suffocate it, and it'll try and back out because it's suffocating.
Okay.
So, some
Good.
tips.
I was just thinking, you said they're breathing through their back, so do they really breathe through their rear end?
I guess you could say they're rear end breathers.
They're rear end breathers. Christine, I didn't say the A word on television.
No, he did not. The other thing, if you get stung by a bee, now remember, most of the times when you get stung, more often than not, it's not a bee. A bee is a bumblebee.
I was going to say that there probably aren't
yellow
too many
jacket,
bees
which is
that
a hornet.
sting us here, yeah.
And a hornet does not leave its stinger in. A hornet stings and can sting again, where a bee, it has a barbed stinger, and when it stings you, it stays in there. And the bee actually dies afterwards. The way to get that out would be you can take either tweezers or a credit card and sort of just pull it out.
Okay.
It'll come out fairly easy. But if you're looking for a stinger on a hornet, which is what yellow jackets are, you won't find one. And really, most of the time, they're not dangerous unless you're allergic to them. If you're allergic to bee stings, now how do you know if a child's allergic the first time they get stung?
They swell up?
You don't. Because you can't develop an allergy until you've had a chance to build up antibody to it. So it's the second time they get stung that there has a chance of getting
That was a
the
trick question.
reaction. So if you can't say, oh, they got stung once and nothing happened, so it's okay. Be careful. watch the second time. If they get stung twice and there's no reaction, you're probably...
Is that one of those trick questions that's on like the medical exam?
They kind of ask a little tougher questions than that.
I would have got that one wrong, Christine.
So, that is bug safety. We're just mowing them down here.
Bug safety.
Speaking of mowing them down,
Do we have lawn safety?
I believe we have lawn safety tips. And you...
I've got barbecue safety.
Yeah, you're good at barbecue safety tips, but I think lawn safety tips... Lawnmower safety. Look at that.
Lawnmower safety.
You brushed up on this already.
I will tell you that my mother's watching the show. I already said that today. And if we went outside and tried to cut the lawn with flip-flops on or something like that, my mother would have been screaming at us, "Get in, you're going to cut your feet off, you're going to, whatever."
You know why she's
Not
doing
that you put your feet
but
on.
she's a very smart woman.
If you had sneakers, now I'm taking on Christopher's role. If you had sneakers on and you ran your foot over with a lawnmower, it probably would be, you'd cut your toes off as well. But that's not the point. The point is that, flip-flops are just dangerous to wear when you're doing any kind of activity where there's power equipment, climbing ladders.
Right.
I mean, I was in hospital because I had flip-flops on and fell off a ladder because my flip-flop got stuck up in there, okay? So I've had the pins and the plates. But the point is that wear the proper footwear, okay?
Correct.
And if you're weed whacking, you probably want long pants as well, okay? And I know that sounds crazy to be cutting with sneakers and long pants in the middle of summer, but, Michael could tell you that he came in the other day and his leg was all cut up because the weed whacker decided it was going to let out more string than it should have, and it got him in the leg. So he got a little scratch on his leg.
Take your lead from respective landscapers in your neighborhood. If you look at the good landscapers, every one of them have on shirts, every one of them have on long pants.
Work boots.
Every one of them have on a hat, and they have boots. They're not in shorts and flip-flops and no shirt on, because they know the dangers.
Right.
This is their livelihood and they don't want to get injured. So they're wearing gloves, they're wearing eye protection, they're wearing hats, they're wearing ear protection, which when you're using a lot of these loud pieces of equipment, not so much a lawnmower, although they can be loud, but the leaf blowers,
Right.
they get very loud, and so do some of the weed whackers. So ear safety is another big thing to consider.
So they're recommending here, and this is from, what website was this?
This is the
Why don't you just
American
tell us?
Academy of Pediatrics. They put out, every year they put out summer safety tips. So,
Okay, so what we're talking about, it's coming right off the internet, okay?
well, it's coming right from the American Academy of Pediatrics, which
Right.
is the most respected medical group on pediatric, and they every year put out summer safety tips, not just for pediatrics, but in general, and that's where this is
All right, so moms and dads, you're watching, you're listening, if the children are younger than 12, not recommended to allow them to cut the lawn at younger than 12 years old. Okay, Christine's laughing. She's like, "What are you kidding me? They had me out there at 8 years old cutting hedges and stuff. What do you got? 8 years old. I know.
12
you know
year
what?
olds are recommended.
You want to do it at that age too. You want to be like mom and dad, and you want to help out. 16 years old for ride-on lawnmowers. If you're working on, and this is for adults as well. If you're my lawn, I cut my own lawn, right? So I have a lawnmower and I like to maintain it, and so you want to clean out the bottom, or when you take that bag off, that thing is filled with, clogged with grass and stuff like that. Okay, listen, don't stick your hand in there. And the reason why you shouldn't stick your hand in there is because that blade, even though the engine is off, right, of course it has to be off, right? And now the safety is that you hold onto your lawnmower handle, and when you let go, the engine stops, right?
Right.
Okay, but that blade still could have some amount of torque in it, and maybe there's a stick jammed in or something. You reach in to grab out that grass, you loosen that stick, and that blade makes another half revolution, and they're usually pretty sharp, right? So bad thing to do. Don't do that. Just keep a little stick with you, or a little end of the broom or whatever, and just pop it out, let it fall to the floor, push your lawnmower forward, sweep that stuff up. When you're done and you allow that lawnmower to cool off and you want to scrape out, sometimes you cut the lawn, it's a little wet, and you get that stuff clogged on the bottom of it, okay? You could turn the lawnmower on its side, but do yourself a favor. It's not very safe to do that, because the lawnmower works on, it'll start on compression. That's how it works. It may not have a battery. So when you pull that string, okay, you are making the compression. You're making the pistons move in and out, right? And you're making a electrical transformer move, okay? And that's the, so that all works together. It's not like a car where it has a starter, okay? So if you turn that blade accidentally while you have it on its side, it can start up. It's
Right.
possible. So reach over, pull the spark plug wire off.
That
It
should-
will not start.
See, I
And then
always
you
had
can
a fear
scrape the inside.
of doing that because what if the gasoline leaks out onto the hot carburetor? Could that cause a fire?
It's
If you
possible.
turn it, yeah.
It's possible. They're usually vented gas tanks. Now, 4-cycle engines don't have vented gas tanks, but the 2 cycles, the ones you mix oil, they
Right.
typically have a vented gas tank. So you're right. When you tilt it,
Be
you'll get
careful.
some oil. You'll get some gas leaking out of it. So,
No, one
you
of
know,
the
you know
other
what?
things-
If you're going to teach your children, you want at 12 years old, you want them to cut the lawn, supervise them. Be out there with them.
One of the
You'll
other
feel
things
better,
that-
they'll
that
feel better.
most people don't think about, and of course you're busy. You want to get it done before you mow. Without the lawnmower, take a quick walk around the lawn. Look for toys, tennis balls, rocks, anything that could be hidden in the grass that if you hit with the lawnmower becomes a projectile.
Dog owners.
Dog
Dog
owners.
poop.
Well, yeah, but that isn't going to
can slip.
hurt. You can
can
slip
slip
on that.
on it.
Yes, you
You
can
can
slip
slip
as
on
you're
it.
going. Absolutely. But also,
Nobody likes seeing that come flying out at you either.
if you forget to, well, there's a little sprinkler.
Sprinkler
A
head.
sprinkler head doesn't come up. That becomes a bullet basically when it comes shooting.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful of things like
Yeah.
that. Don't disable your lawnmowers. They were designed to work a certain way. Don't try and override the kill switch because you don't feel like grabbing it. So you
Right.
zip tie it together or
Right.
something so it won't go off.
You can't
is
be in a
designed in
rush.
case you slip on the dog poop and you fall, that your
Right. You
hands
lose
are released and
control
the
of the
mower will
thing.
shut off.
Right.
Not continue to go as you fall under it. So, don't modify it. Those safety things are there for a reason.
If you have allergies, things like that, be careful with the blowers, right? You use a blower, what you're doing is you're throwing pollen up in the air. And when, of course, when you're cutting the lawn. So, you know what? It may look weird to your neighbors if you have a ventilation mask on, but if that works for you and makes you feel better, then you should do that.
And get the
So,
proper one,
eye
not
protection,
those paper ones
right.
that don't do anything.
eye protection,
Ear protection.
air protection, things like that. You know what? You're better off being, it's the summer, you don't want to spend time in a hospital recuperating from an injury, God forbid.
No, you
Be
don't.
a safety Sally when it comes to using your lawnmower and power tools around the house during summer.
And a lot of that just makes sense. One of the other things, right after the summer begins, we have our holiday coming up, 4th of July. Fireworks. Fireworks, now growing up, we had a friend of ours who blew half of his finger off holding a firecracker that he was about to throw, and it went off too soon. So I personally, I've never been a fireworks guy because I've always been scared of them. I saw this as a young child, so I've never been into the fireworks. Except the one thing that my parents would let us use, probably the worst thing you can give a kid.
Roman
Sparklers.
candles.
No, Roman candles are pretty bad too. But sparklers,
If
you
you
know what?
point them at each other, it's bad. Not that I
Sparklers-
would do that, Mom.
Sparklers look safe. It's a little piece of metal that you light and it just
It's
sparkles.
all the kids can use sparklers.
Okay? Do you know how hot those things burn?
No.
They burn at 1,000 degrees.
Well, they get white. So white hot
It's
is about as
1,000
hot as you can get, right? When
Correct.
they say hot, and they go, no, white
Right.
hot, and those things are white, so that's hot.
So but what happens, if you have a kid, it's now dark. They're playing in the grass and they're spelling their name with the sparkler and they drop it. And it's still glowing in the grass, so they go to pick it up. It's dark.
Or
they can't see which end.
Summer, flip-flops on, no
Flip-flops
shoes.
on their feet,
How many times
correct.
they come out of the pool, right?
They step on
Come
it.
out of the pool and let's do the sparklers. Nobody has shoes on. Bad.
Yep.
It's like,
You grab one of those to pick it up, you grab the wrong end, it's so hot your skin sticks to it, you can't let it go.
It's bad.
If you try. And it can cause some severe disfiguring burns, so even sparklers
and
are
Mom and
really-
Dad, how many times, I see it and I've done it, and the kids are playing with the sparklers and it goes out and you go, no, I'll take it from you, I'll take it from you, I'll take it from you. Now you're trying to get your fingers between the hottest part and their fingers and you know, you're going to get burnt. You know what? Just watch them on television.
And if you're
go to
using them and
professional
they drop
firework
it, leave
places.
it. Don't pick it up.
Now I sound like a safety Sally.
You could. But, and again, fireworks, you know, what you can afford to put a fireworks show compared to the ones that you go see, go let the professionals do it. Go to a fireworks show. Everyone likes to see them.
Right.
Go to the guys who know what they're doing. There's safety things in place and really...
What is this crazy? I sound just like my parents.
Imagine that.
This is crazy. Mom, I sound just like you. Don't do this. Don't go out. Don't go here.
It's starting to look like
Don't use fireworks. Don't be careful when you cut the lawn. Holy cow.
See
It's
that?
not possible. Were they right about all that stuff? Holy.
Could you
I'm
imagine
going to have
they
to
were-
write
they
a
were
letter of
playing
an
it right?
apology.
What about pools? Pool safety. Again,
We had a pool.
and I have a pool now.
Yeah, you do have a pool. Yeah.
I have a pool. The one thing that is not true, you don't have to wait a half an hour after eating to go swimming, which we always did. And we're looking at the clock
20 minutes?
going, it's 29 minutes and 32 seconds, like that extra 28 seconds made a difference.
I think it's because your parents just wanted
They
to
wanted
relax
peace
a
and-
few
yeah.
minutes. They wanted to finish their meal, and they didn't want to have to chase you around with the pool.
The thinking behind that is you're more likely to get a cramp if you're
It's still digesting.
swimming after eating, and that's not really accurate. So what's more important is watching kids when in the pool, especially even little kids who learn how to swim. You want to have them within arm's reach until they're able to stand up, and even then, if they're jumping and playing around and hit their head, they can't stand up.
Right.
Supervise. Make sure
Don't
you
trust
have
kids
gates
to
that
watch kids.
automatically lock around the pool.
You know, it's unfair to have children watching children.
Correct.
Because you've got young people in the pool,
Mm-hmm.
they're there having a good time. They're not focused enough to be watching a 3-year-old or a 5-year-old or whatever,
That's right.
whatever the young ones are. And you know, God forbid anything happens or whatever, they're going to feel so terrible as well because they feel that, you know, they were supposed to be watching them. It's unfair to them. You're the mom, you're the dad. Supervise.
Not only don't entrust it to the other kids, don't entrust it to inflatable devices. A lot of parents put those little swimmy
They
things
fail.
on the arms. They're good.
Right.
No, they're not good. They can still drown with those swimmies on.
Slip
so
off,
you
they
have
fail.
to be there. You have to
Right.
be watching. You
Now-
know, unfortunately, every year you hear of at least 1 or 2 children dying in the swimming pool. Every year you hear that.
I
And
remember as
it's
a kid,
avoidable.
we had a pool, and you invite some friends over, and they would, and their moms would call, and I know my mother would call
Right.
if we were going to someone's house, and she said, "Can
someone
Anthony go in the pool?" Yeah. Well, are you going to be there? Is someone going to be there? Can you see the pool from where you are? I'll be sitting outside, or I won't be sitting outside, or no, I'm going to work. And if there was no parent going to be home, no matter how much I'd
Right.
kick and scream and say, "No, I want to go home. My friends are going."
Yep.
My mother's like, "You're not going. You're not going."
That's it.
Because there's nobody there to watch you.
Right. And
Your friends can't come here because I'm not here to watch them because I got to go to work, and you're not going over there swimming at someone else's house because I don't want to be responsible and I don't want you over there.
And I think you bring up a good
And
point.
it used to be, you know, I mean, it was just seemed like it was so unfair, but it was the right thing to do.
Well, you bring up a good point. I find all too often now parents tend to give in to their kids because they don't want to upset them. They're
Right.
screaming and kicking and crying and say, "Oh, okay."
Or they feel guilty, "Oh, well, I have to go to work," and-
because she knew it was the right
Yeah, well,
thing
my mother had to go to work
and that
too.
was the safe thing to do, and that's what she had to
Yeah.
do. Do you think she enjoyed watching you crying and making you feel upset? No,
Right.
but she didn't want anything to happen to you. I think all too often our parents don't stand their ground and they give in, and that's not a good practice.
Sometimes you got to say no.
You do.
And no means no.
That's it.
And that's the bottom line.
I absolutely agree with
You
that.
know?
You know, sometimes we're so busy trying to be a friend to our kids that we forget we have to be their parents
Right.
first.
Yeah, I'm not their friend.
Your main
Not that I don't love
responsibility
you,
is a parent.
but I'm just, I can't be your friend. I'm not your friend.
Well, you can, as long as you take care of being a parent first.
Right.
If you can do both, that's awesome. But you have to be the parent. You don't have to be the friend.
Pool safety. Last year, we did a segment on pool safety as well. We did, you know, we did some summer safety. We like this subject. There's a number of devices now that if you have built-in pools or above-ground pools, that give detection of early warning when something hits your pool, whether a neighbor's child or somebody comes into the pool,
Or even before that, they now sell them that
For the
gates around the pool, if it's open, the gate
Right.
will let off a warning.
We are taxed to death on Long Island, like a lot of places, okay, and we are legislated to death.
Yes.
Okay, but one of the things that really works is the zoning laws about putting fences around your pool.
Yes.
And, the height of the fence and protecting your neighbors
And
and whatnot.
maintaining the fence.
And maintaining the fence. That's a really, really good zoning law, and that's something that should be abided by. To keep, because young children just don't know. They wander into
This
pools.
year on Long Island, 2
Your
children
children
died
may
in the
know,
pool
but the neighbor's
because
children
the
don't
fence
know.
had a hole in it.
Yeah.
They crawled in through their neighbor's fence and they were
Right.
found dead.
And some of these devices that, are on the gates or things that fall, that float in your pool or whatever, very inexpensive. I think if the government was giving things away, like they give away cell phones
Right.
to people, who I don't know if they should have them. Give them safety devices for their children.
But
Give
they
them
don't
life
replace
preservers. Give them.
supervision.
That's what's important. That's more important than giving them a damn cell
Right?
phone.
But they don't replace
No,
supervision.
none of those things replace supervision. But sometimes you're not home.
Right.
Right, so you're home, you're on vacation, and your
Right.
neighbor's
They hear
child wanders into your pool.
Another
Okay, so
thing,
that's
if all of a
important.
sudden you can't find your child, before you do anything, look in the pool.
Right,
Even if you think there's no chance, that's the first place you should look, because seconds can make a huge difference. Huge difference.
right.
First place to look. While we're on pool safety,
That's a heavy one, Dan.
open water safety, always
Okay.
swim with someone. Make sure, and this happened last week here on Long Island, you swim where the lifeguards are.
Right.
When you go to the beaches, even bay beaches, ocean beaches, they have flags that say lifeguards are within these flags. If you're beyond that, they can't get to you. It doesn't matter how, I consider myself to be an extremely strong swimmer. I've been swimming my whole life. I've done lifeguarding. I'm a strong swimmer. If you get caught in a rip current, I don't care how strong a swimmer you are, you can't beat it. There's ways to do it. You want to swim across instead of trying to
Right.
swim in until you get out of the
Because a
current.
rip current is
will pull
parallel
you
to
out.
the beach.
No, a rip current will pull you back out from the beach. So it's pulling you
But
into
you
the
swim-
deep water.
you swim parallel to the
beach
beach
until you
until
get out
you're
of that
out of the
current,
current.
and then you can come
And then
in.
you can make your
But
way
you
in.
can still get tired. That's what the lifeguards are for. So don't, because you think the waves might be better somewhere else, huge risk. Always be with someone. Watch out for rip canals. Rip things. Canals are a bad place to swim because they tend to have water flowing in and out,
Right.
and they can move you. When you're on the beach also, when you go in, look at the beach and set a landmark. In the matter
Be a
of 5
water
minutes,
tower,
you
a
could
building.
be 30 feet away from where you started
Yeah, I've
and
had
not
that
even know it. Be safe with the ocean. Ocean can be a great place. I love the ocean. I love the waves, but it can be very dangerous.
And if you're gonna get hit with a wave,
Mm-hmm.
don't turn your back on it.
No, don't
Forward.
turn back on it.
Into the wave, into
Right.
the curl.
Dive through
Don't
it.
turn your back on it.
Right,
'cause
dive
it'll-
through it, because
Right,
if you turn
it'll
your back
knock
on,
knock the wind out of you.
it could
and you'll
knock
end
you
up
down,
somewhere on the
and yes.
beach.
Yep.
You'd be lucky if you end up somewhere on the beach.
boating safety, again, if you're on the water, everyone on the boat needs a life jacket. And parents, set the example. If they have to wear a life jacket, you should wear a life jacket. Plain and simple.
A boat, another summertime activity where there's a lot of things going on. Fingers over the edge when you're near a dock, ropes and lines and gas lines and all kinds of things. Have fishing hooks, knives, all kinds of things. You just need to be aware. It's not like you don't have to be afraid to go. You just need to be aware. And if you have small children on the boat, you need
Be
to just
careful.
keep your eye on them at every minute of the day, because there's a lot of ways they can
A
get
bit of
hurt
a
on
macabre
boats.
story. I have a friend who was out on a boat with his 3 girls, this is years ago, on a lake out in the west, Utah, I believe it was. They were on a boat, and his one daughter was sitting there, and they had a tube with the line from the tube, and the tube was on the boat, and as they were going, the tube blew off. And as it blew off, the rope kept playing out. Well, it caught his daughter's wrist, and basically it just amputated her hand.
Her hand.
Her whole hand was just cut from her wrist, from the rope. They never found her hand. She, to this day, she does everything, but she had to learn to live
Right.
without a hand
Without a hand.
because of a simple boating accident. It was a tube that blew off.
Right.
It can have that much power, so you
Right.
got to be careful.
And you know what? That could have happened to the adult as well.
It could.
So I have a friend that teaches the boating course.
Safe boating.
And
which
the
boaters
safe
should
boating.
take, absolutely.
It's not a must, but you
But it's a
should
good
you should
idea.
take it. And one of the things that he said to me, and it's not because he teaches the course, but it made perfect sense, is that if you are a boat owner, whether your children desire to drive or don't desire to drive, and your wife, okay, or if the wife owns, then the husband, everyone should take that course. And the reason why they should all take that course is because if you are the boat operator,
What happens to you?
and if something happens to you, how do they get back, or how do they
Right.
call for safety, or how do they, know what to do with the boat? So everyone who goes on that boat, your family members that go on that boat, whether they're interested in driving the boat or not,
They should know how to
be-
do it.
They should be taking that course, and
Good advice.
you should teach them how to operate the boat.
Good advice.
Okay, because they could be the captain when you're in trouble. So, okay.
Want to do barbecue?
Barbecue
safety.
safety.
Now,
I just
everyone-
got a new barbecue, by the way. I got one for
Did you?
Father's Day. Thanks, guys.
I
Yeah.
love new barbecues.
I got a brand new barbecue.
Is it silver?
It's
Shiny?
it's a mix of the stainless and the black. It's a Weber.
Oh.
Yeah, I know Chuck. I know Weber's not one of our sponsors.
How many
What?
burners?
It's got 3
Nice.
burners. It's my backyard is like the size of your driveway.
But-
No, your driveway's twice the size of my backyard. What do I say?
I
So my
got the
driveway is
message.
small. So I have the smaller of the
Still,
barbecue for what I
that's
do.
awesome.
It's perfect. It's just
Now, when you think barbecue safety, everyone thinks of the first thing that we're going to talk about, and I'll talk about that because
Sure.
you're going to talk about the important one. Everyone thinks about fires. And did you know only 5 people a year die from barbecue fires? Be safe with them. Don't put them next to the house. Don't add a ton of charcoal lighter fluid. Don't let the gas go. Check the venturi tubes, the tubes that connect them before you turn it on the first time, because spiders like to build webs in them, and if the spiders build a web, it'll kick back the gas and it'll light on fire. But that's not the danger of barbecuing. Do you know what the danger is? I know you do, because you're going to talk about it.
fat dripping.
Nope.
I don't know.
Okay.
I honestly didn't get to read it all.
Here's the statistic. Every year, outside grills, there's 6,000 fires with 500 fatalities and 170 injuries.
500 fatalities.
Five fatalities.
Oh, 5 fatalities.
Okay? But the other one results in 300,000 hospitalizations and 5,000 deaths each year. And do you know what that is?
I don't know. Getting burned by the.
Food poisoning.
Oh.
Food poisoning
Undercooked
because of
food.
undercooked.
Well, it looks cooked on the outside, Dan.
Not defrosting properly, not leaving it sitting out too long. All the things that you're supposed to do with food, not storing it. It's sitting in the sun. It goes bad quickly.
Right.
For those reasons, more people die from food poisoning related to barbecues than from fires and injuries that way.
Nice. Chicken is always a tricky one to do on the barbecue.
Chicken can be tricky, yeah.
Always a tricky one to do on the barbecue.
Especially if it's on the bone, it takes quite a bit longer to cook than you think.
Right.
Especially if you're using barbecue sauces.
Right.
They look nice and
They
colorful
have
because
sugar in them, and
So
that
it
sugar
burns.
gets dark right away, but the meat is still
raw.
raw. Now, we just did the barbecue, right? I have nice big steaks. My son was barbecuing, and we talked about, well, how long this side, how long that side. And I said, you know what? Why don't you get the meat thermometer? And
Perfect.
I have a digital meat thermometer from like Radio Shack. It's like $11 or something. When you think about $11, that's like a lunch.
And they call
That's
that an
nothing.
instant read thermometer, right? Because it
It,
tells you
it
right
has
away.
a digital readout. It actually has a little cord on it, and you can use it in your oven in the home, whatever, and you could stick it in. And as long as you get the tip in to the thickest part of the meat, and you kind of read
Right.
the instructions, it'll tell you how to do it. Okay, it's super accurate. It lasts. I mean that AAA battery is probably 5 years old or 10 years old. It still lasts. It works great. It takes a little bit of a beating. It's not too sensitive to heat, so if you keep it near the barbecue, it doesn't melt. It's really a good thing. Much more accurate and cheaper than you ever see those forks that say medium rare, whatever, and you stick that fork in. First of all, that thing breaks right away because it can't hold any weight. Second of all, it's not that accurate. It's not as accurate as this,
you want an instant read
this
thermometer like
digital thermometer.
Absolutely.
It's excellent. Works real good, easy to use, and you could use it in the winter on roast in the ovens and all those kind of things. And it comes with a nice booklet about medium rare. I think above 140 degrees is the temperature that you'd like in anything.
Chicken should be about 180.
Okay, but 140 is when you kill most of the bacteria. Parboil. You know what? They're right, Christine. That's very good. She says parboil the chicken ahead of time. That's what caterers do. When you go to a outside barbecue and they have a professional catering, when they make that chicken is already parboiled before they get there. And that's
Although
how they cook it so
safety
quickly.
tip says never partially grill meat or poultry and finish cooking later.
No, not partially grilled.
You're
This is
parboiling.
parboiled.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing a lot of people do that is very dangerous. Two things that people do very dangerous. They marinate the meat or the chicken in a marinade, they put it on the grill, and then they brush that marinade on it. You can't do that. The raw meat was sitting in it.
Or
Unless
you put it in the
boiled
same plate, you just took the raw meat out.
Right, they cut it off the
Not
plate.
good.
If raw meat touched the plate or the cutting board, get a new one.
Yeah, just get another
If you
plate.
want to use the marinade, you have to boil it for 15 minutes before you can use it.
Right. Or keep it separate.
Or keep it separate. Set some aside
Right.
that wasn't in the raw
Put enough
meat.
you think you
Yep.
need in your little bag or whatever you're marinating, and put another one in a glass jar or whatever, and put it in the refrigerator.
That's a simple fix right there.
And then you can use it. That's all. But you're right. I think when you're outdoors, you kind of let some of the rules that you wouldn't normally do in your kitchen, they go out the window.
Right.
Okay? And I think that's what happens to
When
people.
you're grilling, make sure you're not wearing loose clothes.
Yeah.
You know?
Or
Some,
polyester stuff.
Or polyester
Because it
stuff.
gets hot, you know? It gets hot.
Those grills can get very hot. When
Right.
you get flare-ups, make sure you have a spray bottle handy, water in the spray bottle to push down some of the flames if it gets
Right.
too much. You can be safe.
You can be safe.
But
We
it
want
can
you
be a
guys, we want
job.
everybody to have a nice, safe summer. And I see that we can end with some other things that we have here. And
Often forgot about.
this
You
will
know, we worry
remind
about
me-
this.
This is pet safety,
Pet safety.
okay? But before we touch on pet safety, I just wanted to, I went to a party this weekend, and you know, everyone was having a good time, a lot of dancing and whatnot, and it was pretty hot in the place. And some of the older people out of shape, and you know, they were working up a sweat. And you know, you often look out there and you say, hey, you know, that guy's sweating, you can sweat through his shirt. He's going to have a heart attack. You know what? That's very real possibility. So you know, you're out there with your family and your parties, and Uncle Bobby is working overtime out on the dance floor. Bring him a drink. Tell him why don't you sit down for a couple of minutes and get him to rest. And because people are out there having a good time. You think you're hydrating if you drink beer or alcohol.
No,
Tell
you're
us
not.
about that, Dan.
It's you're actually dehydrating yourself by drinking the alcohol because alcohol evaporates so much quicker. So even though it seems like it's liquid, you're dehydrating
Right.
yourself. And often when you have a hangover, that's why you have a hangover, is you're dehydrated.
You're dehydrated.
So you need to drink water. If you're doing regular activity and your kids are doing regular activity, water is sufficient. If they're doing sports in the summer, if it's hot and they're active for a half hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, then they need to do electrolyte replacement, which would be some type of sports drink, a Gatorade or a Powerade or something that has electrolyte replacement.
Right.
If you're not doing that strenuous an activity, you don't need that. Water is
just
fine,
water.
but drink water. You need a lot more water than you think you do. If you're not urinating at least once every 4 hours, you're not drinking enough.
And if you're in dark, you know you're not taking in
You
enough.
have to drink more water.
Isn't there a thing where people do that to me sometimes? They're like, you're going to do this, but and if that happens, you don't drink enough water. What is that?
Your
You're just
skin,
looking
when
for-
you're dehydrated, it starts to do what they call tenting, where it doesn't respond, it doesn't have the elasticity to it. But you have to be pretty dehydrated for that to happen. That's
Okay.
not a good test for general dehydration.
Okay.
That's severe dehydration. If you have
You're in
tenting
trouble.
skin, you need to have IV fluid. So
Okay.
that's not a test
So
that you would want to use.
throw that one out the window.
If you're thirsty, you need to drink. And
Some
also,
people just, they go all day and they don't drink.
and that's not
You know.
good.
My father was like that. If he
Prehydrate.
didn't give something, he wouldn't drink all day.
Yeah. Prehydrate. If you know you're going to play sports or you're going to do something, so running on the beach, swimming, that takes a lot out of you.
Chug
So
down
you're in the water,
16 ounces of
drink
water or 12
first
ounces of water.
before you do it. That really does
Right.
help, because then you have some reserves to build off of.
Right.
If you stop sweating, that's a bad sign. As long as you're
Because your
sweating,
body's
that's a
trying
good
to
sign.
hold
Your
the water.
body goes into overheating mode when you stop sweating. So if you're sweating, that's a good sign. That's your body's way of trying to cool it down.
So
but
you're
you
not-
need to replace that.
Not doing Uncle Bobby any favors. He's dancing out there to the village people by bringing him a beer.
No, you're
Bring
not.
him a nice cool glass of water.
Yep.
And keep an eye on your
And it-
older relatives and the young ones.
If
'Cause
you
the
are
young ones
drinking
don't
beer and
drink
stuff,
either.
and that happens in the summer, make it a point that after every, say, 2 beers, you have a 12-ounce bottle of water, just to make sure that you're not going to get into trouble.
Right. So we talked about everybody and everything except for the family members who really can't speak up for themselves, and that's the pets.
That's the pets. A lot of pets have problems in the summer. You know, you want your pet to be with you, and you think you think about your kids and what's happening. You got to realize most of your pets are wearing these heavy coats. They don't sweat like we do. They can't compensate for the heat. Oh, we're just going to go in the store for 10 minutes. A car can heat up on a hot summer day. It can heat up to over 200 degrees in 5 minutes, even with the windows cracked.
Wow.
So you should never leave dogs in the car. Make sure they always have water. Even if they're outside, they have a dog house. Dog houses get very hot. That's not a good answer. Dogs can get sunburn, especially light-colored dogs that don't have thick fur.
Really?
They can get a sunburn. A good idea if your pet's going to be out on a sunny day and you're not going to be able to bring them in the house, get one of those little baby pools and put a little bit of water in it. Give them a place to lay down and roll in the water. They
Right.
will do that. Most dogs like the water.
Yeah.
There are a few that don't, but most dogs like the water. Other thing, when you're walking them out on the roads, that asphalt gets
Oh, the
extremely hot.
pads
It
on
can
their feet.
burn the pads of their paws.
Right.
Sand can do the same. You got to be careful of that. Some certain types of dogs, the ones that have sort of a pushed-in
Like
look,
the pugs or whatever they are.
pugs and the
boxers.
bulldogs, they call that a brachycephalic dog. They can have very difficulty breathing in the humid weather.
Okay.
So you want to keep them inside so that they can breathe. They do well in air conditioning, not out in the heat.
I've seen these hairless dogs they have.
They can burn very badly.
Really? I guess you could put
it's called the
sunscreen on
Mexican.
them.
You can put sunscreen on the dog. Yes, absolutely. You can rub it into their fur. They do very well.
I have to admit they're not the most attractive of
No, they're
the
not.
dog
Well,
species.
the people who own them like them. Make sure that you get your dog's vaccinations. The ticks and the mosquitoes that affect us, they affect the pets too. A lot of disease, the heartworm is spread by mosquitoes.
Right.
So you want to make sure that you get your pets vaccinated too. If your dogs like to play in the water, my dog, I have a retriever.
Right.
Boomer loves the pool. If I leave the pool gate open because the kids are in, he'll go in the pool.
any water.
You got to make
You
sure they're
by a
not
beach, they'll go
unattended
in the
either.
water.
He can swim. He can get out on his own by the ladder. But just like a kid,
Right.
what if something happens? They can tire quickly. So,
Right.
be safe. How to know?
Water bowl.
Water.
They have these portable water bowls now that you can just fold up, throw in your pocket,
Mm-hmm.
which is great. So, you get yourself, if you're thirsty, your animal's probably thirsty. It's not a bad way to look at it.
Yes.
Okay, because you're out and he's out, or she, whatever. So get yourself a bottle of water from the ice cream man. Get him a bottle of water. Or
If
her
it's
bottle
going to
of
be
water.
real sunny, put a little tent up so the dog can go into the tent. Spray bottle, water in a spray bottle. You can spray the dog down. Helps cool them off.
Right.
Great idea. How to know if a dog is getting heat stroke? If they're panting heavily and they're breathing a little fast and they're drooling a lot, their gums and tongue seem very red, that's an early sign. That you're good, but just start giving them water. If they're like standing, trying to like keep their balance, they're getting hot. That's when you intervene, give them water, cool them down, they're good. If they start to, their gums and their tongue turn whitish or blue, and they're not listening, they look like they're groggy, that's getting to a dangerous point. You need to cool the dogs down.
Right.
Rub down alcohol on their pads. That helps cool them down. Ice packs under their legs.
Really?
Ice packs under their legs. hose them down with some
My dog just stops.
some cool water.
My dog just sits down.
Yeah.
You'd be walking and walking and walking and walking and walking, and then you just sit down.
That's the early stage.
That's like you.
That's
why-
the early stage
Come on,
because
let's
they're
go.
losing their balance. That's the early stage. Cool them down.
Just pick her up. She's small enough to. Boomer's a little big.
You can also, if they get to a late stage, instead of water, you can also give a dog Pedialyte, which is something they sell in the drugstore
okay.
for little infants. It's electrolytes and stuff. If you don't have that, Gatorade will work too. That has sugars in it, but
Right.
you know, don't. The bottom line, remember your pets too, because they are part of most people's family. My dog's the only one who is happy to see me every single time I walk in.
Every single time.
Everyone else is happy most of the time,
Right.
but not every single time.
Every single time. There's a little joke about dogs, but we won't get into it today. But we are
We are out of time.
out of time, and
We did this because Dear Dad cares. We want-
tomorrow, first day of summer, we
First
said
day
that
of
before. Is that the, Christine, do we set an egg on its end or something? Or that's the summer this is summer solstice? Does it now start to get darker? It just started to get lighter.
No, tomorrow is the longest day of the year, and then it gets darker by about a minute a day.
So
What?
can we set an egg on its
You
axis?
probably could, but we don't have time for
And
that.
we're not going to be able to do that.
So be safe, enjoy your summer, and we'll see you next week here on Dear Dad.
Take it easy,
Tony.
guys. Until next week.
Have a good
Thank
week.
you.
Congratulations on your graduation tomorrow.
Yes.
And we'll,
Caitlin. Nice.
Good job.
Macaroni Thursday. I love you guys. We'll see you
Well, my
soon.
buddies, we'll see you soon, and good night. Christine,
All right. Chuck, Bonnie, thanks for letting us have our say.
we're done.